All of these countries who are wickedly buying gold are not being honest about how much they are buying. You have commercial banks in China that work on behalf of the PBOC that buy gold from the refineries in South Africa and in Switzerland. They don't tell the IMF how much gold that they just bought on proxy for the PBOC. You got gold that they buy that's under 995 pure. That doesn't get reported to the IMF. Heck, the IMF came out recently, just a month or two ago, and said that the amount of gold China says they have is fugazi. It's way, way understated. Here's how much gold we really have. And in other words, it would crowd them out of their continual accumulation of gold using the suppression of the Western central bank prices.
Gold is making headlines as central banks accelerate their purchases at an unprecedented pace. Recently, over 32,000 ounces of gold, valued at nearly $70 million at $2,400 per ounce, were acquired. This surge in buying is expected to continue, with central banks, particularly in China, Russia, and India, leading the charge. For instance, the Bank of India purchased 1.5 times more gold in the first 4 months of 2024 than it did throughout 2023 and repatriated over 100 metric tons of gold from the Bank of England, where it had been stored since 1991. India is not alone in this gold rush. Countries such as Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, Egypt, Ghana, Cameroon, and South Africa have also withdrawn their gold from the Bank of England and the New York Federal. This buying spree is not just about reducing counterparty risk, but also serves as a strategic counter to the dominance of the US dollar. Analyst Andy Schectman notes that the US has used its currency and treasury market power as geopolitical tools, prompting many nations to stockpile gold. Historically, gold has experienced significant revaluation during economic shifts, such as when Roosevelt revalued gold by 40% during the Great Depression. Today, China's higher gold prices compared to the West suggest arbitrage opportunities, with China accumulating 400 to 500 tons of gold annually and reportedly holding 8,300 metric tons in reserves that have not been audited for over 60 years. This secrecy and manipulation of gold prices by Western institutions point to a looming global financial restructuring. As the global South and East gain in wealth and sophistication, they are poised to challenge the prevailing financial order, signaling a significant shift in the global financial landscape. We will present clips from Andy Schectman's interview, but before we do, if you want more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell for updates. Thank you and enjoy the video.
But when you see all of these countries massively buying gold and repatriating it, and then you see, at the same time, it's interesting too, these central banks, Jesse, are also going deep into debt. And so they're accumulating debt and accumulating gold and repatriating the gold at the same time. And then you get the head of the Dutch National Bank talk about, well, you know, our balance sheet has turned negative, but we don't care. We have 20 billion in notional gold held in our gold revaluation account. Yes, you heard that right. And all central bank balance sheets, gold is held in what's called the gold revaluation account. It is my very, very, very distinct belief that you will see central banks revalue gold to a much higher level. Now, as crazy as that sounds over my shoulder, that's what Roosevelt did. He confiscated gold and devalued the dollar by 40%, thereby revaluing gold by 40%. And if you look at what's happening in China right now, there is an arbitrage play going on where gold is 40, 50 bucks higher, maybe a little less, but silver is over $4 higher than the Western COMEX and LBMA price, or LBMA price, which is incentivizing arbitrage. But what happens if they said, look, you know, he who has the gold and the commodities makes the rules. Let's just say we'll peg gold at $10,000 an ounce. It's important to understand that currently that gold revaluation account is on the liability side of the balance sheet. The gold that they own is on the asset side. In other words, the rules are for central banks, you're not allowed to offset liabilities with your gold asset. So they put the mirror image in what's called the revaluation account on the liability side of the balance sheet. Hence, they balance each other out, balance sheet. It would be very easy, and this is what the Dutch central banker is saying, to make their balance sheet go from putrid to pristine like that if they just revalue gold. What is gold worth? It's worth whatever the highest bidder will pay for it. And if China and India and Russia and all of these countries say gold's 10,000 an ounce, who does that benefit the most? Oh yeah, that's the countries that have been buying the hell out of it. And when you talk about China, if you believe they only have 2,600 metric tons, I have some oceanfront real estate to sell you in Arkansas, because they've been producing 400 to 500 tons a year for the last 25 years. They're the largest producers and importers in the world. For years, they never told anyone how much gold they have. Heck, we don't even tell everyone how much gold we have. Well, we do. It's supposedly 8,300 metric tons, which hasn't been audited in over 60 years. And when Ron Paul says, let's audit, no, turn down. So the point of it is all of these countries who are wickedly buying gold are not being honest about how much they are buying. You have commercial banks in China that work on behalf of the PBOC that buy gold from the refineries in South Africa and in Switzerland. They don't tell the IMF how much gold that they just bought on proxy for the PBOC. You got gold that they buy that's under 995 pure. That doesn't get reported to the IMF. Heck, the IMF came out recently, just a month or two ago, and said that the amount of gold China says they have is fugazi. It's way, way understated. And so my point to you is, why would they want to tell us how much gold they have if indeed they will revalue it? Here's how much gold we really have. And in other words, it would crowd them out of their continual accumulation of gold using the suppression of the Western central bank prices, where on the LBMA, they admit to trading 20 million ounces of gold and 290 million ounces of silver per day. However, they also admit that the numbers that they publish are 10 times understated, because they only show the settlement. If I sell you 100 contracts and I buy 200, the net is 100 for me, but they don't show that I traded 300. So if that really is the case, they're trading 200 million ounces of gold per day and 2.9 billion ounces of silver per day, or 3.5 times annual global mine supply, distorting the hell out of the price in gold and silver. And my point to you is simply this: this is just beginning. And these countries have understood the Achilles heel to the system is standing for delivery. No one ever did before.
As of June 2024, a significant development has emerged with Saudi Arabia joining the Enbridge project. This move suggests the potential rise of a petro-yuan as China, now Saudi Arabia's largest oil customer, explores using its digital yuan for oil transactions. This shift could transform global trade dynamics by moving oil trading away from the US dollar and towards the yuan. Enbridge is revolutionizing international finance by allowing countries to trade using central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, thus bypassing traditional, politically charged intermediaries like SWIFT. This system enables central banks to enforce sanctions without relying on the dollar-dominated framework. A key aspect of this change is the use of gold in transactions. For example, China has recently accepted oil payments instead of dollars for a major contract to modernize Iran's largest airport. This reflects a broader trend of using commodities for high-value deals. The proposed settlement currency under Project Enbridge will be backed by 40% gold and 60% a basket of local BRICS plus currencies. Importantly, the gold will remain within the borders of the owning countries, ensuring independent audits and availability on demand. Andy views this development as part of a broader trend where central banks are stockpiling and repatriating gold, signaling a profound shift in the global financial landscape. Let's return to the interview.
What's interesting about the Project Enbridge is that Saudi Arabia just became a full participant in Project Enbridge, which is not compatible with US dollars. Not compatible with US dollars. The largest oil producer in the world, who just joined BRICS, became a full participant in Enbridge. Dilma Rousseff said that the new unit currency will be 40% gold, not a basket of commodities, but 40% gold and 60% a basket of local currencies. Now, as far as the basket of gold, what did the BIS reclassify gold as? BIS being the most powerful bank on the planet. Well, they reclassify gold, ironically, as the only other Tier 1 reserve asset. Project Enbridge will not allow the U.S. to sanction other countries because they're not even part of it. And it is not compatible with US dollars, right? So all of these countries will be able to develop their own central bank digital currencies, every one of them. And they will trade with one another using their central bank digital currencies. The unit currency, which it has been developed, and they said we have in principle agreed upon using the unit as a BRICS settlement currency. Think about what I was just saying about how the BIS tells these players what to do a few years before. So the unit currency is incredibly interesting. First of all, 40% gold in kilo bars, 60% gold or local currencies of the BRICS plus countries. Now, my belief is the countries who want their currencies as part of the 60%, like China, they will do all they can to back their currencies by gold, and Russia too. And India. These are the countries. India bought 1.5 times the amount of gold they bought in all of last year in the first 4 months, and they brought it home. The countries that will represent the 60% within the BRICS will be wickedly rich in gold. Another reason to not tell the world how much they have. But here's where it gets interesting. The white paper on the unit says that 40% gold holding will, when the countries create these tokens, if you will, for the settlement, it will be 40% gold, 60% basket of BRICS plus currencies. Those currencies in that gold are moved into an escrow account, but all of the gold is held within the borders of the countries who possess it. The gold will not need to be sent to Beijing. The gold will not need to be sent to Moscow. It will be massively independently audited with huge violations for deviation from protocol. And it will be callable, deliverable if people want. So do you think there's any coincidence that these central banks have been buying at a level the world has never seen? Think of what they did with reclassification of gold. They start loading up on gold and repatriating it. Oh, by the way, it's tier 1. Now they start loading up again and really repatriating, including bringing all their gold home from the Bank of England and the New York Fed. And the white paper, which Delma Rousseff says we've agreed in principle to, in terms of a new settlement currency, will be 40% gold, and it will be held within the borders of the countries that possess it, audited independently.
The rising gold purchases by central banks, especially in China, Russia, and India, reflect a strategic shift away from reliance on the US dollar and a focus on protecting against currency vulnerabilities. As these countries build substantial gold reserves and repatriate holdings from Western institutions, they are positioning themselves to gain greater economic autonomy and influence. Share your thoughts on Andy's prediction in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on post notifications for more updates. Thank you for being part of our community.